What happens when a harmless joke about spending the night with my best friend becomes the headline at every table? And then the law answers back. How can a calm husband flip a room without shouting after weeks of being mocked as jealous? Why did I believe intention cancels action until a process server called my name? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Eulalie Prin, 31, and I said I was only joking. I worked the front desk at a dental clinic where I kept smiles tidy and schedules clean. One night I told friends I wanted to spend the night with my best friend Jasper as a joke. I said modern couples laugh at that. I said intention cancels action. My husband, Caleb Sutter, is quiet and exact. He asked if I met Jasper after the joke. I said it was only a boundary test. He asked for plain truth. I said context mattered more. At home, I performed normal. I set our 2 mugs on opposite counters and called it style. The guest bed looked a little used. Caleb said he needed quiet. His phone lit with a muted notice and went dark. A red circle sat on the wall planner I did not draw. A small sticky note read, "Bring forms." The air held a faint smell like printer toner after midnight. I told myself he was being dramatic. I told my sister it was only humor, and people were jealous of brave women. She said jokes break things too. I said people who love me should clap. Caleb said dignity does not clap. I woke before sunrise and made the kitchen bright. I opened the blinds and wiped a perfect circle of steam from the kettle lid. I put our 2 mugs on opposite counters again, blue by the fruit bowl for him and yellow by the sink for me. I told myself it was a style choice, not a sign. I took a photo of the light on the counter and almost posted, then saved it to drafts. I wanted the morning to look calm. Calm is a costume that fits me well. Caleb came in with that quiet step he has, like he does not want to wake the table. He asked if I slept. I said I slept fine. He asked if I wanted to say anything before the week got busy. I said only that people online took my joke too seriously. He asked if I met Jasper after the joke. I said it was only a boundary test. He asked what I was testing. I said feelings, which are private. He said marriage is not a private field trip. I said people who love me should clap when I am brave. I poured coffee and started my speech. I said modern couples laugh at edgy lines. I said intention cancels action. I said a joke is air, not stone. He asked if I wanted to spend the night with Jasper or only pretend. I said words are theatre, and the show was over. He asked if I invited harm into the house. I said harm is a big word used by small minds. He looked at his blue mug and did not drink. The wall planner caught the light. A red circle sat around the middle of next week. I had not drawn it. I asked what that was. He said he liked to mark important tasks. A small sticky note on the fridge read, "Bring forms." I laughed and said paper was his first love. He said paper kept facts from sliding. I said facts bend if you know how to talk to them. He did not answer. His phone lit with a banner and then went dark. The sound was muted, but I saw one word before it slid away, private. He put the phone face down and moved to the table. He opened his laptop, and a spreadsheet showed only initials and dates. I leaned closer and asked if he was mapping bus routes again. He minimized the window without hurry and said he liked to keep details straight. I said the only detail that mattered was that I chose him. He asked how I could say choose while holding a match near the curtains. I said he was being poetic to scare me. I set the yellow mug by my hand and wondered if the guest bed was still warm. Last night he said he needed quiet. He slept there with the window open a finger's width. I told him space was dramatic. He said space was honest. I called it punishment. He said it was a boundary. I hate that word when he owns it. My phone buzzed. The group chat sent laughing emojis about best friend sleepovers. Thalia added a row of eyes. Verity posted a meme about brave women who live out loud. I placed the phone on the table so Caleb could see the hearts and the fire icons. I said the people who know me understood what I meant. He asked when the people got a seat at our breakfast. I said witnesses make life real. He said agreements make life real. I went to the bedroom to fetch a sweater. The guest bed looked too neat in the corners and too flat in the center, a small hollow like a pressed thumb. I touched the pillow and told myself it meant nothing. On the dresser, I saw his keyring, and a new, unfamiliar key flashed like a coin. I told myself it was for a locker at work. In the hall, I heard a faint beep, like a recording app starting or stopping. Old buildings make odd sounds, I told myself. Back in the kitchen, I tried softer words. I said Jasper and I had history since school, and history needs jokes to cool. I said joking keeps friendship safe. Caleb asked if Jasper was safe for our marriage. I said our marriage was strong and could carry a little wind. He asked if I was planning to keep making wind. I said I would not be policed. He said he was not a police officer. He said he was a person asking for plain truth. I said I already gave it. He lifted his phone and dismissed a reminder without opening it. I glimpsed the label as it slipped away. Paper drop 9:15 a.m. He moved his mug to the far counter, away from mine, like 2 pins on a map. He rinsed it, though he had not drunk from it. I said I missed his old warmth. He said warmth lives near trust. I said trust should keep up with style. He said dignity does not chase. I opened my gallery to choose a harmless plant photo for a story. Between leaves sat a strange picture. The corner of a document in grey light, no words, only the edge. I did not remember taking it. I deleted it and told myself CloudSync likes to play fetch. The air smelled faintly like printer toner, warm and dry, the way nights smell when work is done. Our printer started with a soft whir and pushed a single blank page onto the tray. I laughed and said even machines try to add drama. He said machines only do what they are told. I asked if we could reset with a small kiss and a plan for the weekend. He said, resets need truth first. I said truth was that I loved him and jokes are not crimes. He asked if I understood why he slept in the other room. I said he wanted to look victim noble. He said he wanted to hear his own thoughts. I said his thoughts were loud already. He said mine were louder. I tried to pull him toward my side by speaking about goals. I said my job needed a fun, bold person. I said the clinic loved my energy. I said Jasper helped me see my own worth. Caleb asked if I understood how that sentence sounded. I said I was investing in our future by expanding my confidence. He asked if our future included Jasper's couch. I called that line cheap. He said the line was exactly priced. He walked to the desk and clicked a drawer shut as I approached. The lock made a clean, final sound. He picked up a thin binder labeled Utilities and slid it into a tote. The tote dipped heavy like there was more inside than bills. I joked that he was moving to the library. He said he liked order. I said order is control with a smile. He said order is how people stay sane. I kept the performance going because performance is better than silence. I said everyone in our circle understood the joke. I said even Jasper thought it was a test and that tests are healthy. Caleb asked who gave me permission to test another person's vows. I said my vows were about intent, not fences. He said fences keep gardens from being eaten. I said I was not a garden. He said he was not a fence. He checked the wall planner, lifted his phone, and took a slow photo of the red-circled date. He took another of the guest bed through the open doorway. I said he was acting like a detective in a small film. He said he preferred records to guesses. I said records make love cold. He said dignity is warm. The line stabbed, because it sounded like something I should have said first. He tied his shoes and stepped toward the hall. I followed, because following means control. I asked if he would be home for dinner. He said he had personal tasks. I said personal belongs to both of us. He said not everything merges. I said he was choosing ice. He said he was choosing clarity. I said clarity without mercy is cruelty. He said mercy without change is noise. He reached the guest room door and paused. My phone on the counter buzzed and flashed a text preview, then folded itself away before I could read it. The printer exhaled the last of its hum. The guest room latch clicked with a soft, exact sound. The hallway felt like a held breath. The clinic lobby smelled like mint polish and burnt coffee. I arrived early and turned on the pendant lights, because light makes people behave. I wiped the front desk with small circles and arranged the appointment cards in a fan that said I was in control. Mina came in humming and asked if I was ready for the busy block. I said I was built for rush hours. She asked if Jasper was the friend from my joke. I said he was my oldest friend and jokes keep friendships safe. She raised her eyebrow, then asked if Caleb laughed. I said he would, after the internet calmed down. By 8:30, the waiting room buzzed. I smiled at patients and pointed at clipboards. A woman in a navy coat checked me against her phone and asked if I was the girl who made the sleepover joke. I said I was the woman who believes in modern love. She said modern teeth still need floss. I laughed like we were friends already and printed her forms. The printer made a warm, dry breath. I liked the sound. It meant paper was on my side. Rafe leaned on the counter and asked if I was going to the rooftop later. I said, wind helps truth travel. He said wind also carries dust. I said dust looks good in late light. He shrugged and went to get the next patient. I checked the clinic Instagram and saw a tagged photo from the club patio last month. Me and Jasper laughing, his camera strap across my shoulder. I tapped it and wrote that friendship lasts longer than fear. Hearts appeared fast. Hearts count, I told myself. At 10, Dr. Keats opened her door and asked for a quick word. Her voice was friendly but iron under silk. I followed into the back office. She said there had been chatter about my joke and about a tag with Jasper. She said we were a health practice and needed quiet hallways. I said people were jealous of loud women. She asked if I could keep personal content low for a week. I said yes in a gentle tone. That meant maybe. She slid a clipboard across the desk. The top page showed one word only, statement. She asked for a neutral note for our records. I wrote that humor can be misread and that my private life would not disrupt operations. I signed like a person who reads contracts for fun and handed it back. When I came out, I checked my phone for applause. Verity had posted hearts on my morning selfie. Thalia had sent a single line in our private thread that said, please stop. I replied that sisters clap first and judge later. She wrote to Dot and went quiet. I muted the thread before guilt could speak. Guilt needs silence. I would not feed it. A courier arrived with supplies. I signed the scanner and stacked the boxes near the break room door. I flipped the incoming mail into 2 neat piles, just the way Caleb liked at home. Flipped stacks look handled. I told myself I was a professional in all rooms. Yaz from the orthodontist next door popped in and asked if the rumor was true. I said rumors are comfort food for small lives. She looked at my shoes and said small lives sometimes keep better promises. I said promises were a luxury when you are building something big. During lunch, I took a mirror selfie in the staff toilet. The coral jacket, the soft light, a plant in the corner. I wrote a caption about growth seasons and brave hearts. I hit post. Within minutes, the hearts bubbled. I felt tall again. Mina came in and asked if the post was wise. I said wisdom is calm, and my calm was viral. She did not argue, but she did not like the word viral. Mid-afternoon, a man from a legal office in the building stopped at the desk and asked if he could book for Friday. I said yes and typed fast. He asked, in a casual tone, if I was okay after the online thing. I said the online thing was small. He said small things become exhibits sometimes. I smiled like he had made a joke and printed his reminder card. The printer fed a single blank page first, then the card. I pretended the blank page was nothing, tossed it and kept my smile. At 4, Dr. Keats asked for another quick word. We returned to the glass office. She said a patient had mentioned a tagged clip of me and a man on a patio. She said she did not care about my private life, only the clinic's quiet. I said the clip was old and harmless. She said harmless should be easy to keep off the feed. I said my feed was part of my brand. She asked if I wanted the clinic to be part of it too. I said I heard her and would be careful. She placed my signed statement in a folder with calm hands and thanked me for being professional. Her calm wanted to crawl under my skin. On the way home, I stopped at the supermarket because normal people buy salad. In the checkout line, a neighbor looked at my basket, then at her phone, then at my face. She asked if Caleb was okay. I said, Caleb loved order and would make a plan, like always. She said plans are better when both people see them. I said I saw enough. She paid quickly and left without the usual talk about coupons. At home, the apartment held that faint toner smell again. The desk lamp was off, but the air felt busy. On the shelf sat a single USB stick with today's date written on tape. It rested under the taxes folder, like a bookmark. I told myself Caleb had finally learned to label things like I asked. The laptop was asleep, but when I brushed the trackpad, a cloud sync pop-up flashed. File uploaded successfully. I clicked the screen dark, fast, as if the light were a siren. Caleb came in with quiet feet and placed his keys on the dish. I noticed the new unfamiliar key again, bright and tidy. I asked if he had joined a gym. He said he had errands. I said we should plan dinner at the rooftop. He said the evening would be private. I said private is for people with something to hide. He said public is for people who need crowds to hear them. I said crowds teach truth. He said truth comes with receipts. He opened his laptop, and a spreadsheet blinked with only initials and dates. I asked if he was cataloguing street signs for work. He minimized the window. He checked his phone. A message preview slid on, titled Follow-up, then vanished before I could read more. He placed the phone face down. I said he was being secretive. He said he was being careful. I said careful was a cage. He said cages were for animals. Boundaries were for people. I hated that line, because it sounded like mercy when it was a wall. I pressed for closeness. I said we could post a soft photo and close the loop. He said the loop would close another way. I said he was threatening me. He said he was making a map. I said I was not a route. He said we were both already on one. He rinsed a mug and set it to dry on the far counter like a border post. My phone pinged again. Mina had tagged me in a story from last month. Me on a club smoking patio. Jasper holding his camera. My face turned toward him, laughing. The caption said, "Best friends forever," but people were already adding comments with knives inside them. I typed a new line to frame it as nostalgia and pressed post. Hearts arrived, knives stayed. I told myself I could still win with endurance. Caleb watched the sink run and asked if I was done for the day. I said I was only getting started. He said he would be in the other room. I said only cowards walk away from a conversation. He said only fools confuse volume with truth. He walked down the hall. A drawer clicked shut, clean and final. I stood by the counter and stared at the USB under taxes. I told myself it was for scanned receipts. I told myself scanning was love in a dry hand. The printer made a soft whir from the desk in the corner, then spit a single blank page onto the tray like a white tongue. I did not know what that meant, so I decided it meant nothing. The rooftop had that early evening shine that makes people feel prettier than they are. I arrived before the others, so I could choose a table near the rail where phones like to point. Kira waved from the bar and said the night needed sparkle. I said sparkle was easy and truth was the hard part I carried well. Yaz asked if I wanted less wind for the hair. I said wind was part of the brand. I set my coral jacket just so, like a flag. The first round tasted like fruit and decision. I told them the office had tried to make me small with clipboards, and that I had stayed graceful. Kira said grace was good, but quiet was better. I said quiet was a trap for women with light. Two strangers slid closer and asked if I was the girl from the patio tag. I said I was the woman from it, and that friendship lasts longer than panic. They smiled the way people smile when they want to see a fall. I wanted to lift the room before it lifted me. I spoke about modern love as if it were a class, and I was the calm teacher. I said intention outranks action, and that joke's cool hot history. Someone at the next table asked if my husband also liked the class. I said he respected adult conversations. Someone else muttered that adults usually keep promises. I kept my face bright and thanked them for caring. My phone buzzed with a shared alert from the home calendar. Downtown, 4:40 p.m. I pressed the screen dark before the others could see and told myself Caleb was picking up printer ink or a part for the car. I pictured him moving through a clean office, walking like a list, and I felt both angry and safe. I told myself organization was love in a boring coat. Jasper messaged from a contact name saved as an emoji. He sent a thumbnail, a short clip from the patio months ago, our faces in half shadow, my laugh obvious to anyone who knows me. He wrote that he could send the full file if people tried to shame me. He wrote that leverage keeps bullies polite. I told him to delete it. He sent a shrug emoji and went quiet. I told myself silence from him was a sign of maturity. I also told myself it was a sign I would ignore later. The chant started near the rail because someone always wants a toast when cameras are near. Kira encouraged them with her glass. I lifted mine because empty hands look guilty. I said grown people test ideas before they pick a life. I said my marriage was strong enough to hold a small storm. A woman at the railing said, storms drown gardens. I said, storms bring fresh air. The crowd made that mixed sound crowds make when they want permission and punishment at the same time. Yaz filmed the skyline, not me. I noticed and decided it meant loyalty, even if it did not. A man in a sports jacket said my husband must be a saint. I said he was mature. Another voice asked if maturity meant silence, while his wife played with fire for content. I said I was not playing. I was modeling courage. I heard my own tone and wondered if it sounded like sales. I kept going because stopping would be defeat. The lights came on and made everything look like a promise. Kira asked for one more line for the story. I said monogamy was a conversation and we were still speaking. A few people cheered. Others lifted their phones higher. The red dots pointed at my mouth like laser sights. I smiled wider and felt smaller. We left the rooftop for the club because momentum loves noise. On the smoking patio, Jasper appeared, as if conjured by comments. He leaned on the rail and said he missed our late talk energy. I said we were fine as friends and the joke was a joke. He asked if jokes end when nobody is laughing. I said people were laughing. The crowd on my phone proved it. He lifted his phone and recorded a 5-second clip of me smiling with the river behind me. I told him to stop. He said I look strong. I said strength did not need proof. His camera kept the small red eye for a beat longer than I liked. 2 women at the ashtray watched us. One repeated my line about intention outranking action. She asked if intention also outranked vows. I said vows are made with context, and context had changed since we were born. She said context is not a locksmith. I told myself strangers love the sound of their own wisdom. I told myself my wisdom was kinder. I checked messages while Jasper ordered water. Thalia wrote that I should go home and speak in a small room. I replied that small rooms make liars. She wrote that honesty has a quiet voice. I muted her again because I did not want the word quiet in my head. At home for 10 minutes between venues, I passed the desk and saw 3 binders perfectly aligned. Home, auto, bank. The covers looked new or simply very clean. The apartment carried that faint printer smell again, warm and dry. The laptop woke when I touched the trackpad and showed a clean desktop with 2 folders, Archive A and Archive B. I said out loud that Caleb was finally decluttering. From the spare room came one low hum, like a shredder starting, then stopping. I told myself he was cutting coupons, though he never cuts coupons. I swapped shoes, took a breath, and went to the community hall for a friend's birthday. Streamers sagged in kind arcs. People were already loud with sugar. The DJ tested the mic and smiled at me like I was the program. Kira and Yaz grabbed paper cups and told me the room needed a sweet speech. I said I could be sugar when needed. Ian stood near the door speaking to the coordinator in that careful tone he uses for instructions, not feelings. Ruth and Martin stood near the back. Ruth's hands were folded. Martin watched the exit sign like it had a job only he understood. The entrance rehearse happened in slow motion. People clapped as we tried a walkthrough because clapping is easier than thinking. After the practice, Kira called for the birthday toast. Phones rose again like a field of small lamps. I stood by the table with the cake and gave the line I had sanded all afternoon. I said love is not a museum, it is a market, and markets are loud. I said we learn by moving. A laugh came from the left, bright and wrong. I turned and saw a woman holding her phone chest high, camera open. She asked if my husband agreed to be inventory at my market. I said he understood growth. Ruth looked down at her watch. Martin rubbed his thumb along the chair back. Ian picked up a cup and set it down again, with the care of a man placing evidence. I tried to reset the tone. I said forgiveness is a muscle and ours is strong. The room made a sound that felt like a shrug. Someone near the cake whispered that my jacket looked like the patio clip. I smiled like I had won a prize. Inside, I felt the floor tilt a degree. Across the room, I saw Ian's phone, face down on a chair. The screen lit once with a tiny glow and went dark before I reached it. He returned and lifted it without looking at me. He said we could finish soon. I said the night had not heard me properly. He said the night was not the problem. His voice stayed level and clean. Tamsin, the birthday girl, clapped for attention. The room hushed the way rooms do when a camera promises them a story. The DJ lowered the music. People pressed closer and lifted their phones higher, waiting for me to deliver the line that would make them feel generous. I opened my mouth and felt my phone buzz in my palm. The banner appeared at the top for a breath and then folded itself away. Message thread. Follow-up. At the same moment, a camera flash cracked from the far side like a small storm. The park smelled like damp bark and cut grass. I chose a bench by the path so people could see us and read calm on my face. Thalia arrived with Ivy and a bag of crackers. She said we could talk while Ivy played. I said fresh air makes adults behave. Thalia said truth makes adults behave. I said truth was already behaving inside me. She watched me like a teacher waiting for a student to run out of excuses. I began my gentle version. I told her my joke about spending the night with Jasper was a way to cool old history. I said friendships need pressure valves. I said Caleb knew my heart and should respect my process. She asked if process meant meeting Jasper in quiet corners. I said corners are where people talk. She asked if corners are where marriages go to wobble. I said we were steady. The internet just hated brave women. She did not argue. She handed Ivy the crackers and said, "Play kindly." Ivy ran back from the slide with a stick she called a wand. She asked if rings can tell lies on their own, or if hands make them do it. She said her friend lied about feeding the class fish, and the fish still swam away when she tried to pet it. I said grown-up stories have private rooms inside. She asked if promises can breathe in small rooms. I said promises need creative air. Thalia thanked Ivy and sent her back, but the question sat on the bench like a pebble in my shoe. On the walk home, we passed the mailboxes. The mail in our slot had been flipped into 2 neat stacks. A sticky note on top said, "Bring forms in Caleb's tidy hand." I pressed it flat and told myself he was paying bills for once. Upstairs, the air carried that faint printer toner smell again, warm and dry like paper warmed by a lamp. On the desk sat a thin binder labeled Utilities, only it felt heavy when I lifted it. Inside were clean sleeves and crisp tabs, no bills, just the potential of bills. I closed it fast. The laptop woke to a clean desktop, 2 folders named Archive A and Archive B. I said out loud that he was decluttering because he finally listened to me. The words echoed as if the room waited for a different line. I put on a soft dress for dinner with his parents. I told the mirror I would steer the tone with kindness. Caleb came from the bedroom with simple clothes and a still face. I asked if we could post a picture before we left. He said we would be offline tonight. I said, silence looks like guilt. He said silence looks like care when words are hot. I said words make fire into light. He said light also shows burns. He picked up his keys. The new unfamiliar key flashed again on the ring like fresh metal. I asked if we had a new mailbox. He said he had errands. I said errands were starting to sound like secrets. He did not answer. The family restaurant had long tables and loud ice in water glasses. Ruth stood to greet us and gave me a short, careful hug. Martin nodded like people who save opinions for when they matter. Verity had already told the server my favorite drink. She said a headline always helps a birthday week. I said tonight's headline was Grace. Caleb sat without speeches. I needed a speech to push against. He did not give me one. We ordered fast. I started early because first words win. I said people twisted jokes for sport and that modern couples know how to laugh. I said my friendship with Jasper was strong because we set bold boundaries. Ruth asked if the boundaries had been set by both people or by the loud one. I said my intentions were clean. Martin asked if intentions clean up actions or just talk about them. I said people fear women who refuse to be small. Verity clapped her hands once and said I was a bright comet. Ruth looked at her water and said comets look smaller when they are farther away. I leaned toward Caleb and reached for his hand. He kept his fingers on the stem of the glass. I said distance hurts more than comments. He said distance keeps sparks from catching. I said he was ruining my night by choosing ice. He said he was choosing facts. Verity told him birthdays break for cold men. Ruth said birthdays break when truth does not sit down at the table. Her tone stayed kind and it still cut. The food arrived and cooled while we made shapes with the napkins. I tried a new angle and called my secrecy compassion. I said, worry harms health, and I loved his health. Ruth asked if my compassion had asked for consent. I said consent belonged in big moments, not small trials. Caleb said his definition of big included the truth being elsewhere while he planned our week. Martin said a lot of small things make a wall you cannot see until you hit it. The server placed a small cake with a candle. People sing by habit. They sang. I closed my eyes to make a wish and thought about the patio clip and Jasper's shrug emoji. When I opened them, Ivy had climbed onto the chair beside Thalia. She asked if birthday candles can fix promises, or if they only make smoke that stings. I said candles make hope. She asked if hope likes to be lied to. Thalia told her to sit and swing her feet. Ivy swung and watched me anyway with that soft, direct look children use when they do not know politics. Verity lifted her phone and tilted it to catch the glasses in the light. Ruth asked if the evening could stay off the feed. I said my feed was part of my work. Ruth said, then treat it with the care I say I give my job. Martin slipped his card into the check folder when half the cake remained and said it was late. He has a way of ending scenes without a scene. I resent how well it works. We stepped outside into blue neon air. Verity whispered that I should post something gentle about growth. I said I would find the right caption. Ruth placed a light hand on my sleeve and said, the next word should be careful. She said, dignity keeps families steady. I said I always choose dignity. The sentence felt too heavy for the mouth it came from. Caleb's phone lit with a line that read, meeting, personal for later in the week. He tapped it dark. I asked about the meeting. He said, personal. I said personal belongs to both of us. He kept his voice level, and said not everything merges. He stood by the curb like a person checking distances. I noticed his car was parked facing the street again, nose to the exit as if it had opinions. We drove home without the radio. In the lobby, the mail that had been flipped earlier was now sorted by size, which is the kind of unnecessary order he makes when he is thinking. Upstairs, I reached for the study door. He reached faster and closed it gently. He said he needed quiet. I said, silence is a sharp tool. He said, truth does not cut if handled right. I said I would post a soft picture to calm the noise. He said edges tell the true shape. I went to the kitchen and lifted the utilities binder again. It still felt heavy for something thin. I set it down and glanced at the laptop. Archive A, Archive B, patient and clean. I said out loud that he was just doing a home office reset. From down the hall, the faint hum of the shredder came once, stopped, and came again like a breath that changed its mind. The unfamiliar key on his ring blinked in my head like a tiny signal I could not translate. I stood in the doorway to the hall with my phone in my hand. Ivy's question about candles pressed at the back of my throat. Caleb turned the study knob and looked at me without heat. He said we would speak tomorrow. I said tomorrow needed a plan. He said plans work when facts hold. His phone flashed a small banner I just caught. Meeting, personal. He clicked it dark. He stepped into the guest room and the latch closed with a soft, exact sound. The metro car smelled like metal and old rain. I stood by the door and watched our reflection slide in the window. Caleb kept one seat between us, as if space were a rule he needed to show strangers. I said people would think we were fighting. He said people would think about their stops. I said I wanted his shoulder. He said I needed truth. I tried a small cry, the kind I could still finish with a smile. He handed me a tissue without heat. I told him this distance was punishment. He said distance was protection. I asked from what? He said from more harm. The train lights flicked and made my face a soft blur, which almost looked kind. At the next station, a group of teens got on with loud bags. I opened my phone to check the group chat. People had moved from jokes to bets. Someone guessed we would post a joint apology by Friday. I typed that they should relax and learn from me. I erased the line because it sounded like begging for attention. I posted a harmless photo of my shoes instead and wrote that walking clears the mind. Hearts arrived like confetti. Hearts still counted if I said they did. We reached our stop and climbed the stairs to the parking garage. The air felt like cold bread. Caleb opened the trunk and set a folder labeled household on top of a thick tote. I laughed and said, parties do not need filing cabinets. He said, order travels. I said, order without warmth is ice. He said, ice keeps food safe. His car faced the street again, nose to the exit like a thought that had already left. I told myself he liked easy turns. I also told myself I hated how ready it looked. His phone buzzed with an alarm labeled paper drop. He swiped it away like a fly. He put on headphones and stepped 2 paces back to make a call. He said very little. He listened a lot. He said he understood. He said he would follow instructions. The word instructions made my teeth hurt. He slid the headphones into his pocket and looked at me like I was a map he could read without touching. On the walk home, I tried a new tactic. I said we should film a soft video and send it to family first. He said there would be no video. I said silence invites lies. He said lies already had enough help. I said he was being cruel by refusing to heal in public. He said healing was not content. I called him cold. He said he was clear. I said clarity without mercy is violence. He said he did not do violence. He walked ahead and held the front door while not looking at me. Inside, the apartment had that faint toner smell again. A warm, dry note, like paper had been fed through a machine at night. On the hall table sat an unsealed envelope in his neat hand. I lifted the flap and then set it down fast, as if I had touched a hot pan. He watched my fingers and said the kitchen was not a mailbox. I said, marriage has no off-limits. He said, respect does. I said respect was a word people use to trap women. He did not argue. He moved past me to the desk. The desk drawer clicked locked when I stepped closer. He opened his laptop. A spreadsheet blinked with only initials and dates, cool as ice. I asked if he was mapping hydrants for the city again. He minimized the window without hurry. A Cloud Sync pop-up flashed in the corner and said file uploaded successfully. He dismissed it with one finger, like a person swiping dust. I went to the fridge to breathe. The sticky note, bring forms, stared like a dare. I took my phone to the balcony because night air can make a person new. I typed a caption about growing pains and nearly posted. I saved it to drafts because the wind pushed my hair into my mouth and made me look unsure. I called Thalia and said he was freezing me out and that it was cruel. She said cold is sometimes careful. I said she had chosen his side. She said she chose Ivy's side, which meant the adults should behave. I ended the call before she could add the word quiet. Caleb joined me on the balcony and kept both hands on the rail. I said I was scared he would leave. He said he was still here. I said I could not breathe if he kept me in silence. He said he would speak soon in the way that mattered. I said the crowd would calm if they saw us together. He said the crowd had never helped us. I said the crowd loved a comeback. He said he did not. Back inside, I framed a photo of 2 plates and a candle, the kind that makes followers soften. I said we could post without a caption and let people guess. He said there would be no post. I said he was trying to make me small. He said he was trying to make the mess smaller. I told him a grand apology arc would fix this faster than any office. He said speed was not the goal. He took out his phone and snapped quiet photos of small things. The wall planner with its red circle, the guest bed with its pressed pillow, the 2 mugs on opposite counters like border posts. He moved with respect, as if the counters were witnesses. I hated how calm it looked. I said he was playing detective. He said he preferred records to guesses. I said records are cold. He said dignity is warm. The line had lived in his mouth all week like a coin he would not spend on me. The shredder hummed from the spare room, stopped, then hummed again, like a breath that would not choose. I stood in the doorway and asked if he was shredding our life. He said he was shredding junk mail. I said it sounded like theatre. He said theatre plays to the back row. He was not playing. I stayed there longer than needed, as if the machine might spell a word. My phone buzzed with a preview from a thread titled Follow Up. It folded itself away before I could read it. A second buzz came from Jasper, saved under an emoji. He wrote that he still had a clip if I needed leverage. I told him to delete it. He replied with a thumbs up that felt like a smirk. I deleted our thread and then checked the gallery for a soft photo. Between flowers and shoes, another sharp image waited. A corner of a grey page, no words, only edge and light. I deleted it. It reappeared a second later with today's date. I told myself clouds make ghosts when they sink. I walked to Caleb and tried a hug. Arms soft, head on his shoulder, the old choreography. He did not push me away and did not pull me close. He stood like a person holding a full glass and not wanting to spill. I said I wanted to fix us. He said, fixing starts with facts. I said I had already given the truth. He said I had given a performance. I said performances heal crowds. He said crowds were not our doctor. I tried the hard edge. I said if he kept treating me like an enemy, then maybe I should stay at Jasper's and make the joke real. He said he heard me. I said I could go live and tell my side. He said I should do what I needed. I said I would ruin him if he kept this up. He said he would keep his dignity. The empty space around his voice made me angry because it did not give me anything to push. The room settled into that quiet that comes before storms, but also before sleep. He placed his phone on the table face down, then looked at me without heat. He said he would handle the matter properly. He said there would be steps. He did not list them. He did not raise his voice. He did not ask me for anything. He let the words sit between us like a folded letter. The printer woke and pushed a single blank page onto the tray. The shredder hummed once more and went still. The laptop made a tiny sound, as if a file had closed and knew its place. I tried to laugh and heard only air. The bus terminal air felt like coins and cold coffee. I stood under the schedule board with my coral jacket and a caption in my head. I saw Caleb near the newsstand, hands in his coat, face clear. I said we should talk and make a soft post. He said the morning would be simple. A man stepped up and asked my full name. I said yes. He confirmed the date and handed me an envelope. He said service of a divorce petition with temporary orders. He spoke the line slowly. He said access to the apartment for me would be on listed windows. He said joint accounts were frozen pending accounting. He said an inventory appointment had a date and time inside. He said there was a written demand to remove defamatory posts and not publish new ones. I said this was an overreaction. Caleb said he would follow the steps. Ruth sat on a bench and watched without gloating. Martin stood by the exit with his hands behind his back. Security looked bored. A child dragged a suitcase. The loudspeaker called a route number. My phone buzzed as a calendar event appeared for the inventory date. I pressed yes. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.